Welcome to dinner, day 120. We are beginning the book of Ezekiel. And it came to be in the 13th year, in the 4th month, on the 5th of the new moon, as I was among the exiles by the river Kebar, the heavens were opened, and I saw visions of Elohim. On the 5th of the new moon, in the 5th year of sovereign Jehoiakin's exile, the word of Jehovah came expressly to Ezekiel, the priest, the son of Buzi, in the land of the Kasdim by the river Kebar, and the hand of Jehovah came upon him there. And I looked and saw a whirlwind coming out of the north, a great cloud with fire flashing itself, and brightness was all around it, and out of its midst, like glowing metal, out of the midst of the fire. And out of the midst of it came what looked like 4 living creatures, and this was their appearance. They had the likeness of a man, and each one had 4 faces, and each one had 4 wings. And their feet were straight feet, and the soles of their feet were like the sole of a calf's foot, and they sparkled like the appearance of polished bronze. And under their wings, on their 4 sides, were the hands of a man, and each of the 4 had faces and wings. Their wings touched one another. They did not turn when they went, but each one went straight forward. And the likeness of their faces, the face of a man, and each of the 4 had the face of a lion on the right side, and each of the 4 had the face of an ox on the left side, and each of the 4 had the face of an eagle. Such were their faces. Their wings were spread upward. 2 of each touched one another, and 2 covered their bodies. And each one went straight forward, going wherever the Spirit was to go, and they did not turn when they went. And the likeness of the living creatures, their appearance, was like burning coals of fire. And like the appearance of torches, moving back and forth among the living creatures. And the fire was bright, and out of the fire went lightning, and the living creatures ran back and forth like the appearance of a flash of lightning. And I looked at the living creatures and saw a wheel on the earth beside each living creature with its 4 faces. The appearance of the wheels and their works was like the appearance of beryl, and all 4 had the same form. The appearance of their works was, as it were, a wheel in the middle of a wheel. When they went in any one of 4 directions. They did not turn aside when they went. And their rims were high and awesome, and their rims were covered with eyes, all around the 4 of them. And when the living creatures went, the wheels went beside them. And when the living creatures were lifted up from the earth, the wheels were lifted up. Wherever the Spirit was to go, they went, because there the Spirit went, and the wheels were lifted together with them, for the spirit of the living creatures was in the wheels. When those went, these went. When those stood, these stood. And when those were lifted up from the earth, the wheels were lifted up together with them, for the spirit of the living creatures was in the wheels. And a likeness was over the heads of the living creatures, an expanse like the appearance of an awesome crystal stretched out over their heads. And under the expanse their wings were straight, one toward another. Each one had 2 which covered one side, and each one had 2 which covered the other side of the body. And when they went, I heard the noise of their wings, like the noise of many waters, like the voice of the Almighty, a tumult like the noise of an army. And when they stood still, they let down their wings. And a voice came from above the expanse that was over their heads. When they stood, they dropped their wings, and above the expanse over their heads was the likeness of a throne, in appearance like a sapphire stone. And on the likeness of the throne was a likeness as the appearance of a man high above it. And from the appearance of his waist and upward, I saw what looked like glowing metal, with the appearance of fire all around within it. And from the appearance of his waist and downward, I saw what looked like fire and brightness all around, as the appearance of a rainbow in a cloud on a rainy day. So was the appearance of the brightness all around it. This was the appearance of the likeness of the esteem of Jehovah. And when I saw it, I fell on my face, and I heard a voice of one speaking. And he said to me, Son of man, stand on your feet so that I speak to you. And the Spirit entered into me when he spoke to me, and set me on my feet, and I heard him who was speaking to me. And he said to me, Son of man, I am sending you to the children of Israel, to a nation of rebels who have rebelled against me. They and their fathers have transgressed against me until this day. And the children are stiff of face and hard of heart, to whom I am sending you. And you shall say to them, Thus said the Master Jehovah. And they, whether they hear or whether they refuse, for they are a rebellious house, shall know what a prophet has been in their midst. And you, Son of man, do not be afraid of them, nor be afraid of their words. Though thistles and thorns are with you, and you dwell among scorpions, do not be afraid of their words or discouraged by their looks, for they are a rebellious house. And you shall speak my words to them, whether they hear or whether they refuse, for they are rebellious. And you, Son of man, hear what I am speaking to you. Do not be rebellious like that rebellious house. Open your mouth and eat what I am giving you. And I looked and saw a hand stretched out to me, and see, a scroll of a book was in it. And he spread it before me, and it was written on the inside and on the outside, and written on it were lamentations and mourning and woe. And he said to me, Son of man, eat what you find. Eat this scroll, and go, speak to the house of Israel. And I opened my mouth, and he fed me the scroll. And he said to me, Son of man, feed your stomach, and fill your stomach with this scroll that I am giving you. And I ate it, and it was as sweet as honey in my mouth. And he said to me, Son of man, go to the house of Israel, and you shall speak to them with my words. For you are not sent to a people of foreign speech and of difficult language, but to the house of Israel. Not to many people of foreign speech and of difficult language, whose words you do not understand. If I had rather sent you to them, they would have listened to you. But the house of Israel is going to refuse to listen to you, for they refuse to listen to me. For all the house of Israel are hard of head and hard of heart. See, I shall make your face as hard as their faces, and your forehead as hard as their foreheads, like adamant stone, harder than flint, shall make your forehead. Do not be afraid of them, nor be discouraged at their looks, for they are a rebellious house. And he said to me, Son of man, receive into your heart all my words that I speak to you, and hear with your ears. And go, come to the exiles, to the children of your people, and speak to them, and say to them, Thus said the Master Jehovah, whether they hear or whether they refuse. And the Spirit lifted me up, and behind me I heard the sound of a great rumbling voice. Blessed be the esteem of Jehovah from his place. And the sound of the wings of the living creatures touching one another, and the sound of the wheels beside them, and the sound of a great rushing. And the Spirit lifted me and took me away, and I went in bitterness in the heat of my spirit, while the hand of Jehovah was strong upon me. And I came to the exiles at Tel Abib, who were dwelling by the river Kebar. And I sat where they were sitting, and sat there, stunned among them 7 days. And it came to be at the end of 7 days that the word of Jehovah came to me, saying, Son of man, I have made you a watchman for the house of Israel, and you shall hear a word from my mouth, and shall warn them from me. When I say to the wrong, you shall certainly die, and you have not warned him, nor spoken to warn the wrong from his wrong way to save his life, that same wrong man shall die in his crookedness, and his blood I require at your hand. But if you have warned the wrong, and he does not turn from his wrong, nor from his wrong way, he shall die in his crookedness, and you have delivered your being. And when a righteous one turns from his righteousness and shall do unrighteousness, when I have put a stumbling block before him, he shall die. Because you did not warn him, he shall die in his sin, and his righteousness which he has done is not remembered, and his blood I require at your hand. But if you have warned the righteous one that the righteous should not sin, and he did not sin, he shall certainly live, because he has been warned, and you have delivered your being. And the hand of Jehovah came upon me there, and he said to me, Arise, go out into the plain, so that I might speak to you there. So I got up and went out into the plain, and see, the esteem of Jehovah stood there, like the esteem which I saw by the river Kebar, and I fell on my face. And the Spirit entered me, and set me on my feet, and spoke with me, and said to me, Go shut yourself inside your house. And you, O Son of man, see, they shall put cords on you, and bind you with them, so that you do not go out into their midst. And I make your tongue stick to the roof of your mouth, so that you shall be dumb, and not be a reprover to them, for they are a rebellious house. But when I speak with you, I open your mouth, and you shall say to them, Thus said the Master Jehovah, He who hears, let him hear, and he who refuses, let him refuse, for they are a rebellious house. And you, son of man, take a clay tablet, and you shall lay it before you, and shall inscribe on it a city, Yerushalayim, and shall lay siege against it, and build a siege wall against it, and heap up a mound against it, and set camps against it, and place battering rams against it all around. Then take an iron plate, and set it as an iron wall between you and the city, and you shall set your face against it, and it shall be besieged, and you shall lay siege against it. It is a sign to the house of Israel. And lie on your left side, and you shall put the crookedness of the house of Israel on it. And many days as you lie on it, you shall bear their crookedness. For I myself have laid on you the years of their crookedness, according to the number of the days, 390 days, and you shall bear the crookedness of the house of Israel. And when you have completed them, you shall lie again on your right side, and shall bear the crookedness of the house of Yehuda 40 days. And a day for a year I have laid on you, a day for a year. Then you shall set your face toward the siege of Jerusalem, with your arm bared, and you shall prophesy against it. And see, I shall put cords on you, so that you do not turn from one side to another, until you have completed the days of your siege. And take wheat and barley and beans and lentils and millet and spelt, and you shall put them into one vessel and make bread of them. You shall eat it as many days as you lie on your side, 390 days. And your food which you eat is by weight, 20 shekels a day, to be eaten from time to time. And to drink water by measure, 1/6 of a hin, to be drunk from time to time. And eat it as a barley cake, and bake it before their eyes on human dung. And Jehovah said, even so the children of Israel shall eat their defiled bread among the nations to whom I drive them. Then I said, Ah, Master Jehovah, see, I have never defiled myself from my youth till now. I have never eaten what died of itself or was torn by beasts, nor has unclean meat ever come into my mouth. And he said to me, See, I am giving you the dung of cattle instead of human dung, and you shall prepare your bread over it. And he said to me, Son of man, see, I am going to cut off the supply of bread in Jerusalem, and they shall eat bread by weight and with fear, and drink water by measure and with dread, so that they lack bread and water, and shall be appalled with one another, and be consumed in their crookedness. And you, son of man, take a sharp sword, take it as a barber's razor, and you shall pass it over your head and your beard, and you shall take scales to weigh and divide the hair. Burn with fire 1/3 in the midst of the city when the day of the siege are completed. And you shall take 1/3 and strike around it with the sword, and scatter 1/3 in the wind, and I shall draw out a sword after them. And you shall take a few hairs from there, and bind them in the edge of your garment, and take again some of them, and throw them into the midst of the fire, and burn them in the fire. From it a fire shall spread unto the house of Israel. Thus said the Master Jehovah, This is Jerusalem, which I have set in the midst of the nations, which the other lands all around her. But she rebelled against my right ruling, doing wrong more than the nations, and my laws more than the lands all around her. For they have rejected my right ruling, and they have not walked in my laws. Therefore, thus said the Master Jehovah, because you have rebelled more than the nations all around you, and have not walked in my laws, nor done my right rulings, nor even done according to the right ruling of the nations all around you. Therefore thus said the Master Jehovah, Look, I myself am against you, and shall execute judgment in your midst before the eyes of the nations. And I shall do among you what I have never done, and the like of which I never do again, because of all your abominations. Therefore, fathers are going to eat their sons in your midst, and the sons eat their fathers, and I shall execute judgment among you, and scatter all your remnant to all the winds. Therefore, as I live, declares the Master Jehovah, because you have defiled my set-apart place, with all your disgusting matters, and with all your abominations. Therefore I also withdraw, and my eye shall not pardon, nor shall I spare. 1/3 of you shall die of pestilence, and be consumed with scarcity of food in your midst. And 1/3 shall fall by the sword all around you. And I shall scatter another 1/3 to the winds, and draw out a sword after them. And my displeasure shall be completed, and I shall bring my wrath to rest upon them, and I shall be eased. And they shall know that I, Jehovah, have spoken in my ardor, when I have completed my wrath upon them. And I shall make you a waste and a reproach among the nations that are all around you, before the eyes of all who pass by. And it shall be a reproach, an object of scorn, a warning, and an astonishment to the nations that are all around you, when I execute judgments among you in displeasure and in wrath and in heated chastisements. I, Jehovah, have spoken. When I send against them the evil arrows of scarcity of food, which shall be for their destruction, which I send to destroy you, and I shall increase the scarcity of food upon you, and cut off your supply of bread. And I shall send against you scarcity of food, and evil beasts, and they shall bereave you, and pestilence and blood shall pass through you, while I bring the sword against you. I, Jehovah, have spoken. And the word of Jehovah came to me, saying, Son of man, set your face toward the mountains of Israel, and prophesy against them. And you shall say, O mountains of Israel, hear the word of the Master Jehovah. Thus said the Master Jehovah to the mountains, to the hills, to the ravens, and to the valleys, Look, I myself am bringing a sword against you, and I shall destroy your high places, and your slaughter places shall be ruined, and your sun pillars shall be broken in pieces. And I shall make your slain fall in front of your idols, and lay the corpses of the children of Israel in front of their idols, and scatter your bones all around your slaughter places. In all your dwelling places the cities shall be destroyed, and the high places deserted, so that your slaughter places are broken and bear their punishment. And your idols shall be smashed and made to cease, and your sun pillars cut down, and your works blotted out. And the slain shall fall in your midst, and you shall know that I am Jehovah. But I shall leave a remnant, in that some of you shall escape the sword among the nations, when you are scattered throughout the lands. And those of you who escape shall remember me among the nations where they have been taken captive, because I have been broken by their adulterous heart, which has turned away from me, and by their eyes which hoard after their idols. And they shall loathe themselves for the evils which they have done in all their abominations. And they shall know that I am Jehovah, and not for naught have I spoken to do this evil to them. Thus said the Master Jehovah, Strike with your hand and stamp with your feet, and say, Alas! Because of all the evil abominations of the house of Israel, who shall fall by sword, by scarcity of food, and by pestilence? He who is far off shall die by pestilence, he who is near fall by the sword, and he who is left over and is besieged die by scarcity of food, and I shall complete my wrath upon them. And you shall know that I am Jehovah, when their slain are among their idols all around their slaughter places, on every high hill, on all the mountain tops, under every green tree, and under every thick oak, wherever they offered sweet incense to all their idols. And I shall stretch out my hand against them, and make the land a wasteland, even more waste than the wilderness toward Diblah, in all their dwelling places, and they shall know that I am Jehovah. And the word of Jehovah came to me, saying, And you, son of man, this is what the Master Jehovah said to the land of Israel, An end. The end has come upon the four corners of the land. Now the end is upon you, and I shall send my displeasure against you, and judge you according to your ways, and repay you for all your abominations. And my eye shall not pardon you, nor would I spare, for I repay your ways, while your abominations are in your midst, and you shall know that I am Jehovah. Thus said the Master Jehovah, a calamity, an only calamity, look, it has come. An end has come. The end has come. It has awakened against you. Look, it has come. The turn has come to you, O inhabitants of the land. The time has come. A day of uproar is near, and not of rejoicing in the mountains. Soon I shall pour out my wrath, and shall complete my displeasure upon you, and judge you according to your ways, and repay you for all your abominations. And my eye shall not pardon, nor would I spare. I give you according to your ways, while your abominations are in your midst, and you shall know that I am Jehovah who strikes. See the day, see, it has come. The turn has come. The rod has blossomed. Pride has budded. The violence has grown into a rod of wrongdoing. There is none of them, and none of it its crowd, and none of it their riches, and none eminent among them. The time has come, and the day has arrived. Let not the buyer rejoice, nor the seller mourn, for wrath is on all its crowd. For the seller shall not return to what has been sold, though they are still alive. For the vision is for all its crowd, it shall not turn back, and in the crookedness of his life a man shall not strengthen himself. They have blown the trumpet, and all is prepared, but no one goes to battle, for my wrath is on all its crowd. The sword is outside, and the pestilence and the scarcity of food inside. He who is in the field dies by the sword, and he who is in the city, scarcity of food and pestilence devour him. While they who escape of them shall escape, and be on the mountain like doves of the valleys, all of them mourning, each for his crookedness. All hands go limp, and all knees become as water, and they shall gird on sackcloth, and be covered with trembling, and shame shall be on every face, and baldness on all their heads. They throw their silver into the streets, and their gold becomes as filth. Their silver and their gold is unable to deliver them in the days of the wrath of Jehovah. They do not satisfy their appetite, nor fill their stomachs, because it has been their stumbling block of crookedness. And in the splendor of his ornaments, he set it in excellency, but they made from it the images of their abominations and their disgusting matters. Therefore I shall make it like filth to them, and I shall give it for a prey into the hands of strangers, and to the wrong of the earth for a spoil, and they shall profane it. And I shall turn my face from them, and they shall profane my secret place, for destroyers shall enter it and profane it. Make a chain, for the land has been filled with crimes of blood, and the city has been filled with violence. And I shall bring the evil ones of the nations, and they shall possess their houses. And I shall cause the pride of the strong to cease, and their set-apart places shall be profaned. Destruction shall come, and they shall seek peace, but there is none. Calamity upon calamity shall come, and report shall be upon a report. And they shall seek a vision from a prophet, but the teaching has perished from the priests. And counsel from the elders. Let the sovereign mourn, and let the prince put on despair, and let the hands of the common people tremble. And I shall deal with them according to their way, and judge them with their own right ruling. And they shall know that I am Jehovah.